smonta tutto, il film non si fa più. Quei giorni qua non ci deve essere più niente, bisogna cominciare subito. Coraggio, al lavoro, buttate giù. Dico bene, autore?
Sì, grazie. Arrivederci, ragazzi. Ci vediamo in un prossimo film.
Lo speriamo.
Ciao, marinai.
Welcome to Cinema Italia, a podcast dedicated to the world of Italian cinema. Presented by me, John Bleasdale. Okay, everybody, welcome to Cinema Italia. My name's John Bleasdale. I'm a writer and film critic, and today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Alasdair Satchel from Mull.
Hi.
You are the host of the What We Do in the Winter podcast and a film. I want to say sort of popularizer. I met you as in Tallinn in Estonia last year, and you'd sort of talk about how you promote films in terms of education and in terms of communities specifically. Is that right, Alisdair? I mean, correct me if I'm...
So I usually say I'm a film and theatre maker, and I kind of specialise within film education stuff. So opening up the means of filmmaking for people, because when we were young, we're of a similar age. When we were young, you had to borrow a VHS cassette was a big thing that you had to, borrow a video camera or steal a video camera to then a video deck to edit with, to make a film. Whereas now you've got in your pocket, you've got a device that can both film, edit and share from instantaneously, and even do live broadcasting. So I'm involved in kind of the culture of how do we make that accessible to people? How do we break down the language of film so that it's a democratic form that we can all use, because everyone's native in film.
Absolutely. We all speak that language. And yet it's so funny we're talking about this, that I watched a film last night, Broken Blossoms by D.W. Griffiths.
Oh, beautiful. Wow.
One of the earliest. Well, it's like 1919, I think. And there's a moment in that where he's editing a scene which looks like The Shining. There's a sort of father is beating down the door, and Lillian Gish as the daughter, Lucy, is sort of trembling and going, absolutely one of the most visceral sort of displays of fright. But what's really funny about it is they haven't quite worked out the language of editing. And so he arrives sort of right to left, and she's looking right to left. So it's like, is he hitting the door behind her, or and no, the door is coming from the other side. So it's just like, it's kind of interesting to see those really early films, and you think they don't have their language yet. They haven't quite got it.
And that's what I love. I'm particularly interested in the work of Méliès and how he went for, and I always use Méliès with work because it's so visceral and so understandable. It's apparently very simple, but it's really complex. And he starts off as a stage magician and then goes into kind of film when he says, well, that's probably the best way to make tricks happen. And so you get these kind of, really straight on setups for things, but they are essentially very theatrical. But it's amazing how if you introduce them to particularly young people and you say to them, pretty much every film will end up with someone being kicked in the bum as the last thing that happens in it. It's usually that's usually how they end, and it's just amazing. People really do connect with it at the dawn of cinema.
There's the famous, what is it, the gardener?
Yes, the hosing,
sprinkled. Which is sort of like one of the most basic things. If you're watching children's television in the 1980s, you'll see the versions of that joke, or Tom and Jerry or whatever. And there it is at the very beginning of cinema. Let's transition easily into Sergio Leone, because he's another he's a filmmaker, I think, who has a very direct relationship with the language of cinema.
Massively so. Yeah, so many times when you think about kind of the great shots in cinema. To my mind, you think of the start of start of Once Upon a Time in the West, and waiting for a train to arrive and putting a fly in a gun, and then there's even the kids crossing the street in Once Upon a Time in America, which I know you've covered already. And there's just so many of the great shots in cinema are among his work. There's no two ways about it.
As a preparation for this film, I actually watched For a Few Dollars More, but before that I watched Fistful of Dollars because I kind of there's a bit of OCD in me. I can't quite begin in the middle. I have to go and what I was surprised by the contrast of the two films is how much there is a leap between the two. I mean, Fistful of Dollars is good, is a solid Western / Eastern because it takes so much of its shots and so much of its story from Yojimbo, the Kira Kurosawa film. But there's a real step. What was your sort of relationship to Leone and to these Westerns, and why this one in particular, For a Few Dollars More, why this one is the one that appeals to you?
I think the first time I came across Leone's work was when I was a little boy and quite young, visiting Peterhead in the northeast of Scotland, and I had an uncle who lived there that we were very fond of, and I seem to remember him watching the Dollars trilogy, and I think I remember watching some of the work with him, and it was so there's this kind of nostalgia tied in there. And when I watched For a Few Dollars More last night with my family, my son who's 13, it was his first proper Western, the second Clint Eastwood movie. We watched the Where Eagles Dare at Christmas time, which is what a film. That's a beauty
so
as well.
Good.
But this is his first proper Western, and I said to him, and it's quite slow, and he's like, okay, and he loved it, and he thought it was brilliant. So I think there's a sort of a nostalgia connection there. That it's cinema that was on TV and accessible and kind of something that was other, and also it's got that alien thing of it's Italian, Spanish, American, Mexican. What is this? It's like the work of Werner Herzog as well. I remember seeing some of his stuff when I was a wee man on telly. There was a season in sort of 1994 or 95, and I taped all of them. And I was like, what is this? I don't understand. It's not TV, it's not cinema. What? So there's that kind of question thing. But actually, the real route into the work of Leone for me is probably the music of Morricone. I just loved it, and as a student, I had a Morricone CD that I would just have on all the time. And the one piece that always stuck out for me was the Carillon, the kind of the piece with the watches. It just was like, what is this? What is this? So I remember buying the VHSs in FOP. I don't know if you remember FOP, which is
still exists in Covent Garden, I think.
There's one in Glasgow as well, still on Renfield Street, I think it is. Yeah, I remember buying the VHSs in there and having them in my stack of VHSs as a student and watching them and then I bought them on Blu-ray, DVD, then Blu-ray, and of course now on HD online. And there's just something very, they're kind of sacred totems in life. I don't know why. I'm not that fond of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, although I love the music for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I think it's too overblown as a story for me. I much prefer the tightness of this story. I love the sense of the no honor amongst thieves and all that.
It's funny. I mean, I have a similar sort of background with Leone in that I remember ITV doing this season of like Clint Eastwood westerns and using the whistling, Morricone's whistling theme For a Few Dollars More, more or less for the trailer, and always, later on ITV we'll be showing these Clint Eastwood movies, and the movies weren't For a Few Dollars More and Fistful of Dollars. They were like Hang 'em High and this, there were two or three others. Yeah, exactly. And I remember being just like watching them and going, oh, okay, that's not bad. And then the Leone ones came, and it was just like, whoa, these are so much better. There's such a different flavor to them. And even High Plains Drifter, which is the most Leone-esque of Clint Eastwood's non-Leone westerns, still didn't have quite the panache that Leone brings to the screen.
There's a class to it, isn't there? There's a sort of, when I was thinking about it before we watched it, I'm really, one of the things that fascinates me is that you can often tell when a filmmaker's playing around with a concept underneath their filmmaking. So they want to explore this idea of betrayal or lack of truth or whatever's at the root of this film, but often they'll play around with the notion of distance or frame within a frame, or they'll just have loads of different things. And with this film, I wondered if distance was going to be the key thing, because I remember the first shot was, the and there's the the guy falling off the horse, and then the horse runs off. That had such a distance, and I was wondering if it was going to be, the exploring the nature of distance between the character and the lens, and the character and the story, or between because that essentially that is what are we allowed to do spoilers?
Oh yeah. This is spoiler happy.
Yeah, between the colonel and his sister, between Mortimer and his sister, there's that distance that exists because of death, that now suddenly at the very end is brought together in one handful. So I wondered if that was what Leone was playing around with. But having watched the film, I'm not sure that that's what he was playing. But I think it's one of the tools he's using. But he seems to use frame within a frame again and again in the best of ways. There's fantastic shots of there's a sequence when they're in El Paso, when they're looking at the bank behind them. You got a bad guy on the right hand side of the screen, in kind of close up, as in the distance, the guards who are doing the count, they're counting how long the guards are going. You see them going past in that way, and then it cuts to the bad guy on the left hand side of the screen. You see something else on the right hand side, the depth of the field out there. And I don't think it's split up there. I think it's just done kind of in camera, just normal lenses, and it's so good. It's just. And then there's another moment as well when Manco, when Clint Eastwood's character is underneath the stairs, and there's just a bit of a gap. You see this tiny gap in the stairs, it's just must be the size, not even an envelope. You see these characters roaming through there, and everything else is this kind of oblique space in his face. And it's like, just the framing and things is absolute mastery. He's class, nothing more than that.
He's doing that even in Fistful of Dollars. There's a bit where Clint Eastwood's been beaten almost to death, and he crawls under the walkboards of the town. Where the kids are. Yeah. Exactly, and there's a hole in it, and in one shot you have Gian Maria Volante's character sort of jumping on with his brothers, walking across the thing, and you've got all the main characters in the frame. And you can see Clint Eastwood looking through the hole in the boardwalk up at the characters. They're all shouting, wonderful. Go and get him, find him. We can't have him alive. Go and find the Baxters. Go and do this, go and do that. And it's just it's just one perfect framing where you've got all the information. It's so artfully done. And yet as well, you don't notice it. You're not, unless you're like me and you've watched it a million times and you take particular pleasure in these things. It's just there. It's the art form. It's cinematic storytelling, and I think that's why I love it. I watched the film American Fiction recently, and I was totally blown away by American Fiction. There's so many things to resonate with in that film for where we are in our lives here with my family at the moment, certainly. But it's the fact that it's told through a cinematic medium, and it's not told, even though it's based on a book, it's still driven by a visual and sound and performance medium, rather than telling, I'm now going to tell you this. It does things, it shows you things, and it leaves you, and that's the nice thing about For a Few Dollars More, is it leaves so many gaps for you to go, but why did that, when he smoked that joint and he has that very trippy experience, was it love? What was he experiencing? Why does this thing and that's another thing I wanted to say as well, was about Volante. He's fascinating. So Clint Eastwood trained with Michael Chekhov's approach to work, which is kind of the notion of the psychological gesture, these being these significant moments. The watch stuff fits into that very nicely, and obviously with a gun coming out, and that's a very clear, and the hats, these are all fits within a character's motivation and showing what it's doing through action, being the character in the action. But when Volante is holding things, it's almost like he's almost in another film. He's kind of in a magical realm where, when he ushers for that joint to be passed him, and then he holds it, and he doesn't smoke it like, most people smoke. He smokes it from somewhere in between his third and fourth finger. And then when he's holding the watch as well, he's kind of normal, and then he holds the watch and he goes into this kind of reverence. There's like this kind of magic going on with the character and any object he touches, which is, so one of my questions I wanted to ask you and to explore was, what is Leone trying to tell us with these things, with these distances, and with these, with the framings like this, and the choices that he and Volante have obviously made? And I know Volante was a bit too theatrical for him, and I asked him to pull it back quite a lot, to some degree of stress. But what is it that Leone's
asking us to imagine or asking us to explore by these questions of framing and distance, do you think?
I think one of the things that's really interesting in this film, as opposed to the I think Fistful of Dollars, one of the differences is it's like a pre-modern fairy tale where the
Yeah.
characters don't really have an interiority. It's just,
Mm.
I'm a good guy. This,
I'm reading the Bible.
yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Whereas for a few dollars more, you start to get characters with genuine backstory, with
Yeah.
genuine interiority. And the interesting thing is, the good people have their most simplistic sort of interiority. It's like, when Lee Van Cleef explains his backstory, it's like family resemblance, yeah, between a brother and sister. And it's just, that's it. That's, bang, there we are.
Yeah.
Whereas Volante's character is much more, El Nino is much more
El Indio.
Indio,
Yeah.
which obviously has, an ethnic pointer to it compared to the very white Colonel Mortimer and Manco is maybe a little bit more, but played by the most waspish cowboy you could have. Um, he always seems to be in a state of reverie, and reverie is that thing of looking inside. And this is a world that I love the thing you said, because again, this is something which immediately, if you've watched Fistful of Dollars and you start watching this, you'll immediately go, oh, wait a minute, this has a prologue. This has something which you don't. Where does it fit in the movie? Where's the story?
Yeah.
It's also interesting that Leone himself is the person that you hear doing the whistling and the
Yes.
humming on the soundtrack. So that's the only time he can get a cameo in, because he's not cinematic. So he doesn't look. I mean, I guess he has his avatars in there in the hotelier, who is, I think those sort of little grotesque characters
I
are.
love that, and that's what I love, particularly in the Western genre, are these, like Stumpy and Rio Bravo and all these kind of things. Hey, feel it, like this. It's like, yes, more of that, please.
Like a carry-on film at that point as well, with his busty wife.
Well, there is a love scene that was cut between the two of them.
Oh, really?
Mara Krupp, I think, is the actor, an Italian actor, and I'll send you a link in a moment or two so you can see it. But there's quite a busty love scene that happened, but it was cut. So yeah.
But what you were talking about in terms of distances, I mean, of course, it goes with the very nature of the gunfight, which is what we have two. Just to give people a reminder of the plot, if they haven't recently watched it, hopefully they'll probably go back and watch it after this. Two bounty hunters, Colonel Mortimer and Manco, which
Manco,
they are on the trail. Or they're kind of, the story doesn't really begin until both of these characters have been established a good 20-30 minutes into the movie. And they get on the trail of El Indio, who is the most notorious sort of criminal, and his gang, who are going to rob a bank in El Paso. And they decide they're going to take the gang down together. And so the film becomes is kind of a mix of a buddy movie, a bank heist to some degree, a Western, a crime film. And it also has this sort of brother, sort of compadre hangout movie as well. You just kind of like hanging out with these characters.
You want to be with these guys. I mean,
so much.
Lee Van Cleef is just like, there's such... It's so enigmatic, but there's real kindness in him as well.
And he turned up in like old black and white B movies like them, and like he's a sniper in one of those alien attack movies, and he's in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance as sort of like last heavy to the left, and he was always getting killed in film noirs as well. He's in one of those. And Leone recognized him, had a great memory for faces, and just said that I think he wanted Bronson and Henry Fonda and a bunch of people, and he couldn't get them, but he knew. Christopher Hitchens tells a wonderful story of meeting him outside of a hotel and telling his producer, "I don't want to talk to him. He's perfect. If he opens his mouth, I might be disappointed. So just hire him." And of course, also,
he's got that suitcase of money. He says, "Just go and give him some of that money in the suitcase. Just give it to him."
Exactly. And Leone knew it was all going to be dubbed anyway. These films, Fistful of Dollars, hadn't been released in America and wouldn't be released because of legal cases
Oh,
until
right. Oh, yeah.
what happened was it all got released together in the same year.
Oh, wow. Oh,
With
what
good,
a year.
yeah,
Wow.
exactly. And it was kind of like it was weird because I think they had more impact because in the space of 1 year you got the whole trilogy released one after the
Wow.
other, and basically in the space of 3 months. 3 month intervals and then double bills and drive-ins and what you suddenly had Clint Eastwood being
Wow.
reborn because he was a TV star. He was in,
Yeah. Rawhide, was it?
Rawhide, yeah,
Yeah.
as Rusty Yates, Rowdy Yates. Rowdy
Rowdy
Yates was
is,
the name
yeah.
of his character. And he was doing, his career was dead. You know, he was a TV star. He was doing sort of novelty records
That's
at this
right.
stage in his career.
I talk to the trees. Yeah.
Oh, and so that's the sort of the plot and the background to it. But what I think you get such a leap from in confidence from the Fistful of Dollars, which was very, very bare bones, I think even Fistful of Dollars, you get to a point where by the end of the film, um, he is really directing. The gunfights are becoming very, very stylized.
Yeah.
He suddenly at the very end of the film sort of puts the camera on the floor and has the feet sort of step in front of the camera, and those shots and those suddenly you go, okay, I'm not watching John Ford. I'm not
No.
watching
No.
um, a normal way of looking at this, a regular genre. This is breaking the genre to some degree.
I think he does tie back into other forms of cinema, like world cinema. I think he's very influenced by Dreyer. If you look at
Mm.
the kind of the close-ups from Joan of Arc, St. Joan, you see that it's really like so many of the shots, particularly when they go to Ennio's hideout for the first time, and you're introduced to Klaus Kinski for the first time. Wow, I mean, just it was like Klaus Kinski in amongst the mix as well. I was like, what more do you want from a film? It's
I
great.
want to know what he was like on set because he was a nightmare. So
Yeah.
you imagine, was he just did he was he soft at that point in his career, or was it just as crazy?
I don't know. He's got lots of guns, so and a hump. But there's that sense of I use it when I'm teaching the language of cinema to students is that the shots from Joan of Arc by Dreyer, they just because they're so close up and so many of them and so compelling, you have this rhythm of that you're emotionally close to things that are there. This is what I love with cinema. Cinema is a pre-rational language. It's all that you how you relate to things before you go, oh, what a pretty image. Oh, that's a
Mm.
nice sound. It's all the kind of it's the breath and the heartbeat and everything, and that's why it works so well. If you can ride that wave of the pre-rational before it goes into the rational again and again, it's such the most unique form of storytelling. And I think that's kind of what he was doing there, as well as they're telling this story or the exploring what is happening in the hideout. And it introduces us to this gang of 13 or 14 that are going to have to be got rid of, but it also allows us to see them in reactions to things. And it's one thing I want to catch up there as well is that in English it says, the relationship, the relationship between the father, sorry, the brother and the sister, it's the colonel and his sister. But in Spanish translation, apparently it's father and daughter,
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't
which
know
is like
that.
that changes that, and that's a choice in translation that then changes the meaning of the film entirely.
Because then Clint Eastwood becomes much more his son as
Yeah,
well as
yeah,
the son I never had. Sort of my line goes
yeah,
on. Yeah, that's very good. That's very. I'll have to watch it in Italian. I mean, this is one of the discussions I've had with other people, especially Italians, where they say, "Oh, you watched the dub version," and I was like,
mm.
"Well, I watched the English version." And they were like,
Yeah.
"No,
They're all dubbed.
that's the dubbed version. The proper version is the Italian version." And I
Wow.
never thought of that. But of course, the script is in Italian, and the people writing the script are Italian, and the people who are doing the American dialogue are not necessarily just translating stuff.
Yeah,
So it is interesting that these westerns being European co-productions. That's why a lot
yeah,
of the actors are German. It's because they're getting
yes,
money from Germany, so they
yeah,
have to employ some Germans here. Kinski,
yeah.
Maria Koch, I think, is Marianne
Mhm,
Koch in the first film.
mhm.
Um, you get these, you get these choices, but the films then sort of float in this strange netherworld of cinema, and you can't pin it down geographically.
No.
I will never believe this isn't Mexico, even though I know
Oh,
it's not.
totally.
Like
It is
that.
so Mexico.
Yeah,
Yeah. Even though it was filmed in Rome and Spain, it's, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But what you say about the language of this sort of, you know, um, instinctive language, which is a combination of sound and an image, is so true to Leone, because he's so much about these primal things of like people spitting and people, you have that the meeting that you talk about. They're in a church and they're feasting, and I think there might even be 12 of them. There might be like the 12 apostles. They're all, it certainly has a Last Supper-ish feel. And Indio even goes up into the pulpit and gives a sermon. And is, in a way, he's kind of like a Manson figure almost. He's like a cult figure,
That's exactly it. Yeah.
I love Volante. I think that he sometimes maybe gets a bit of a bad rap because of the Leone and Driven and the Christopher Frayling books, because he had a falling out with Leone about his style of acting. But if you watch the other films he's done, he is not an over the top actor. He gives, Christ Stopped at Eboli, the film Il Caso Mattei, lots of the films he did with Rossi are hugely powerful and amazingly, brilliant performances by Volante. I would argue that he's really neglected by non-Italian critics. I think he's up there. I think he's much better than Mastroianni. I love Mastroianni.
Really?
Wow. But I think as an actor, he's much more challenging. He's much more unrecognizable. He's much more like a character actor. And that's a little bit why I think people look at this and say, oh, he's a bit over the top. Well, he's not. That's the character he's playing. That's what he wants. He wants this person to be way over the top, and it kind of works for me.
There's the relationship between that character and truth is very, very slight. Within the first moments of meeting him, he's just this figure asleep, but the character that's pacing around the cell with him has this object which is going to be the kind of central piece of the whole, this icon that's going to be the central piece of the whole story of this cabinet. But yet he kills him straight away. He didn't have to do that. And then you have this moment when he wants the money all for himself. He doesn't want to share it 12 ways whatsoever. He just wants to have it for himself. And so there's this moment of performative grief that he does as well on the stairs. And, aye. And it's just like, it's a performance about performance. And the truth of the character, I think, are those moments of desperation where, give me the joint, and that just kill the pain of the moment with the chemical reverie of his drug choice. And I think that, and also and this is all about his performance, particularly in the eyes. It's really interesting. You can notice where performers come from. Peter Capaldi is a shoulder actor, for instance, all these kind of things. Like David Tennant is a teeth actor, and other Doctor Who's are other. Tom Baker's a scarf actor. But
there's no other actor but Doctor Who, right? They're all the same person.
Well, exactly that. That's what we know. I think the most truthful moment you get apart from the end, Joel, is in the flashback sequence to the shooting and the rape, where you see the naivety of this man seeing beauty and going, well, I want that. That's what I want, and that's kind of the motivation of the character is I want, and there's no other thought. Is I want, and it's from a position of naive envy. I want that. That's what I want now, and it's so beautifully done in the flashback sequences, and that's where you see the truth of him, the desperation, and to get back to a naivety. So I think he's looking at that. Maybe I'm over psychoanalyzing him, but I think he's looking to get back to something really simple, just something like almost an innocence. And he's building up this masquerade of stuff around him to try and get him back to that point. So he's this kind of little player within a bigger play.
I'm really interested that you brought up that thing about innocence on the one hand and play on the other, because I think the two things are very much connected and related in this film. The whole idea of their initial rivalry, Manco and Mortimer, is played out as an extended game. And,
Oh, it's lovely,
you were talking
beautiful.
about the idea of distance.
Mm.
And, obviously, the first time you see Mortimer in action, it's about him judging how far his bullet will travel. This guy's far away, and there's a lovely bit in Bruges where
Oh, I love
Colin
it.
Farrell says, oh, he'll never hit me from here. And he shoots it. He's too far away. He'll never hit me. I don't need to worry about that. Oh, ow, he's hit me in the shoulder.
I love that film.
Yeah, it's so good, isn't it? But it's just that sort of thing of like range is important. If
Oh,
you're,
yeah.
if you want to kill someone, shoot them really close, the way Manco does, like literally, 3 steps away from him. And as they're getting up from the floor, you shoot them without you do a little Bobby Firmino where you don't even look at them and no look, execution.
Yeah.
And
Death is very interesting in this film as well, because most people, when they're shot, they die.
yeah, yeah.
Which is very, very peculiar. When the girl shoots herself in the stomach, she's dead. Which is, unfortunately, is one of the most horrible ways to go, as the Battle of Algiers tells you. It's just that horrible thing. But the only people that survived the shooting for a bit longer are Indio himself, for just a moment, and then the last henchman to get shot just before Indio.
Having trouble with my adding.
Yes! Love it.
But it's okay now. and in that line you have the emergence, and in this film you have the emergence of the that fully fledged. It's in the first film, I'm sure. It definitely is in the first film as well, but it's coming out. Eastwood is so confident. He puts on that poncho and he knows exactly where he is, and it starts to rain. The introduction of his character is beautifully done. It's like it has a confidence. I think the introduction of Lee Van Cleef is almost each of those characters. It's like there's a Lee Van Cleef film that you haven't seen with this character, and they're just reintroducing you. With reading the Bible.
Yeah, exactly.
This train will stop at Tutankhamun.
I just think, and I think you can see the Leone sketchbook in play here. He's trying out other things for later on. So that, the train stopping at the station there is just so nicely done. But you contrast that to, Once Upon a Time in the West, where it's, we wait for the trip. We really wait for that train to come. He's just playing with the elements.
And it's done like a gag as well. When, when the guy comes off, you can't stop the train. If you want to stop the train, write to the company. I did get off. Thank you. And it's like, oh, okay. That's enough. That's as far as we're going to go.
And it's straight into the grotesques. The wee guy across from us kind of starting grotesque as well. And it's, I love, this is one of the things I'm really interested in. The kind of filmmaking I want to do more of here. I'm mostly doing documentary things, but I want to step more into fiction filmmaking. Being a theatre maker, I've got a play running in Chicago at the moment, it opens in a couple of days, and all sorts of different things like that. But I haven't done much in the way of fiction filmmaking myself, but that's what I want to do, is to work with characters at the edge of the notion of a community. I think that's so interesting when you've got a central figure and a community around them. And I think Scandinavian cinema does this really, really well. And so many of the films, like As It Is in Heaven by Kai Pollak, it's just one of my favorite films. It's about a body of a community around one person, and within that there are kind of grotesques and more normal people and things. But that's what this film does very nicely, is that that great gag in the hotel when the man, the wife says, "Oh, he's so tall," and the hotel owner gets down off a box and goes, and then of course the guy that Clint Eastwood goes to see to find out who Mortimer is, he's sleeping under his blanket, and
damned trains. Was it the trains? I'm guessing, because again, he's playing it off him so well. It's just like, he actually does, and he does this in Fistful of Dollars as well. It's 2 moments where he does a genuine Oliver Hardy breaking the frame. He does it in Fistful of Dollars when he punches Marianne Koch, the Mariol character. he sort of looks at the camera as like, oh, what? Oh, for crying out loud. And then he does it again in this film when he's talking to the guy with the trains, and he gets up off it from his chair. He's going to leave, and he just looks straight into the camera as if to go, can you believe this guy? Can you believe what I've got to put up with?
I love it. I love it. I think that's one of the things that interests me so much in cinema as well, is that film is a medium of control and a medium of choice. No matter what you filmed, if you have an accident when you're filming, you choose to keep that in or not.
Yeah.
So there's choice. But this is a film that is under so much control. Like every single thing is beautifully controlled. Like the fact that the shaking shack, the quaking shack does shake and shake, and the smoke comes past the window when the train goes past. It's so nicely done. And then we go into the wider shots and the wildlife and the environment, and everything is controlled in a massive landscape. They're in charge of it all. Whereas one of the films you've already looked at, Santa Spina, you look at that. There's a shot there where they're on a sort of behind a house and on the edge of the water, and there's all sorts of things going on in the water, and you've got this real life going on around them, which is so beautiful. But there they are in charge. That's what they're controlling there, and they trust that the environment around them is not going to intrude on it too much. Whereas in a film like this, you need absolute control, and that's the mastery of the productions. Not just the director; it's the mastery of the whole production team together, the design of it. And I think there's a quote that Leone had, which I don't really speak Italian, but he said, what is it? Let me see. Because he chose every single element that was there in the on screen. He chose all the props. Everything was chosen by Leone. He said, "Stiamo a fare il cinema, mica il circo. Si vede tutto. We're making cinema, not a circus. They see everything." And I think that is a kind of core of Leone's mindset. It's a medium of control, and he's a master storyteller.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think that I think that what's really interesting is that control that's happening on this film is also happening at the level of framing, of what you see, the images, all of that, but it's also happening in terms of narrative. You've got all these complicated plots going on, and you've got how do you make these two people who are bounty hunters who have only selfish motives, apparently, how do you make them, how do you bring them together, and how do you stop them from killing each other so that they can then go after the people they need to go after? And all of those elements are so. I mean, like I love the fact that when Manco turns up at the. Well, I'll give you an example of what you were talking about in terms of control. When you're first introduced to Eastwood and he plays the card game. Yeah, I forget what you wagered, and it's like, your life. Just so, it's nuts. And it's the one of many games which will be played, some deadly, some not so deadly. And when the people come in, obviously the guy's gang come in, the guy has shaved one half of his beard because he was in the barber's chair when they called. And now him being in the barber's chair is like the cliche. Where do you find people? In a saloon, in a barber's chair?
High Plains Drifter, he does it again.
Exactly. There's only a stock number of places you can be in a Western town. But he goes that one more step, saying, okay, well, if he interrupts a shave, but it's absolutely symmetrical. This guy's got, half a beard, and that's how he's going to die.
And I love, exactly that. I was thinking that watching. You're gonna die with half a beard, but again, it's pure cinema the way that's told. Like he says, where is he? And he goes, he's over there with the back to you. And then he goes to play cards with the guy to for his life. But actually, the henchman goes to the barbershop and just stands at the window and just gives a small nod. Yeah, and it's like, whoa, just that high context language that we're not part of, but we are invited into. We know this language of nods and winks. Suddenly, oh yeah, this is how this is, and that's the film makes. It invites. Like, there's so many. Like, you think how many times there's a nod and a wink between the Colonel and Manco.
Right.
It's all these kind of codified languages that are just really secret languages, and it's just magic.
Yeah, and the talking about the framing earlier, that standoff happens via barroom mirror, it's like looking in a screen, looking and it's framed by the door, and they all fly out into the street, into the rain. I mean, it's wonderful filmmaking. And then when they turn up and Mortimer and Eastwood, Mortimer and Manco finally confront each other, it's like a game, and even the children underneath the boardwalk are saying, "Oh, look, it's like the games we play." They're totally. This is a child. That's what I was wanting. I went off in a few diversions, but I wanted to come back to when you were talking about games. There, and Indio being this sort of innocent, perverse character. Here there's an innocence as well, in that they're like, how can we shoot each other's hats up into the air or something, because we don't want to kill each other, so we've got to play a game which will stand in for that sort of conflict.
And then we have the more adult thing of we drink straight away afterwards. It's gone from a naive register to a more kind of mature register, which is very interesting. The tension is one of the core things of this as well, that tension is this form of elastic, really. I trained in mime in Paris, and one of the things that we looked at there was not drama, conflict being the root of all drama, but actually push-pull being tension itself being the root of all drama. And because it was a mime school, you explore this physically by the notion of falling forwards or falling backwards, and at what point when you tip over do you catch yourself, and how does this then manifest itself in your form of storytelling that you choose. It's a really fundamental thing to explore. It's absolutely beautiful. And I think in terms of philosophy of creation of drama, physical exploration like that is really, really vital. And you see it again and again in this film. And one of the things I think is really interesting is that, particularly in that sequence with the card playing, and he's over there with his back to you, is that Clint Eastwood's using, right from the start of the shot, or the sequence, is using his left hand, and it doesn't feel easy. Doesn't feel easy at all. Everything's done with his left hand, and it's got that tension of something's not right here. It doesn't feel, and that's because we read the body so well when we're watching cinema, and with performance in the theatre, you can see a tiny micro gesture of someone's shoulder. You can read 2,000 people watching something.
He karate chops with his left hand as well, doesn't he? He's like he's got one hand, and I isn't that because Manco is almost like one-handed or something?
It's because he's always got the other hand of the gun. So that's when he turns round. There's no pause. The gun, he's always had that hand of the gun. So when he turns around to shoot them, it's done straight away. That's why he is the kind of, and what's made Manco, because this generic, man without a name, what has made this version of the man without a name, what has made Manco into this character? And there's a reveal which my son was asking, why is he doing it? What's he after? And I said, well, I think, and he does reveal it later on, he just wants to buy somewhere to live, somewhere to make his own. To make his own world, to make his own security, his own safety, and just the fact that it's the American dream. That's that thing, and it's tension. Are they going to get it? Are they not? It's.
I also love the fact that he has this sort of bracelet thing, and that makes
strange,
because that turns up later, because he basically Volante Indio throws it at him as like a character reveal, as in we know who you are because this is your trademark, and we figured it out because this is, and I think that sounds like that he has this sort of strengthener on his wrist or something, so that as a it's part of his
weakness.
Yeah, exactly, and he. That transition we were talking about before, where you said they went from sort of play to adulthood or to a more adult. It's interesting that they go from play to work. They're playing with like the hats and the putting mud on their shoes and stuff. And then when they cut from that, they're in the thing, and he's looking at the guy's gun and saying, "I can't believe someone in my profession, is using a contraption like this." And it's like that's the biggest leap you can make in a way. Yet at the same time, they're talking about basically the same thing. It's just they're using different languages and vocabularies.
There is also something very interesting. I was thinking back on what we're saying about the nature of gameplay and lies. Clint Eastwood only does, I think he lies once when he says he'll go north or something like that, but the rest of the time he tells the truth. So when he comes in to see Indio and his gang, he says, "I'm going to turn you in. I'm going to get the bounty on you." And Indio says, that's the only thing you could say that would make sense and mean you're okay. And it's like,
which is also him saying, from a plot point of view, you think that's so stupid and naive, and it's only been said because it makes the story go. But then you later realize that he knew all along, and he wanted him just because he would be useful in killing all the rest of the. Exactly,
yeah.
that's so true. And there was another thing. Oh yeah, as well, Manco not lying. When he wakes up and they say, "What a great joke that was you said yesterday," and he just immediately says, "Was it a joke? I'm going to kill you."
I love that. I
Yeah.
thought it was just fantastic. Yeah. Oh, it's a great performance. It really is, and I think he's clearly having a really good time in it as well. I think it's just, you can see there's a lot of pleasure. I love that sequence where at the end, in the last act, where he shoots the fruit from the tree, and then the kernel's revealed to being above him. I thought that was that's classy, really, really classy.
You should never have shot the fruit from the tree. That gives them away, And that also is, I mean, you talking about mime and your own experience. I was thinking about how much business there is in this film. How much, Lee Van Cleef has this pipe.
Always.
And the cigar he uses. I mean, the very first interaction he has is taking the cigar off someone and lighting his own cigar with it. And
that's right.
But with Eastwood's performance, I find his movement and his cat-like grace, that sort of I was watching a Denzel Washington film the other day, and I thought Washington is another one who cannot. He's a great actor, and it's the same with Clint Eastwood. They're great actors, but they can't disguise that grace. They can't walk like a normal person. When you see Denzel Washington walking down the road, he is a panther. And the same thing is true of Clint Eastwood. There's just this roll to his gait.
It's like the actor Terence Stamp. I wish he could never spoke on film, because when I remember the first Terence Stamp film I ever saw was when I was a student, was The Limey, and I'd just seen the trailer for it, and he didn't really speak in the trailer for it, and he just kind of prances around. It's just this proper kind of master of movement, and then he opens his mouth and he's, all right, tell him I'm coming.
I'm coming.
And it's like, oh no, you've just shat the bed. And I always feel it's such disappointment when you see, these are masters of physical movement, and then just their voice. I mean, that's the Valentino question, isn't it? Going back, unfortunately.
Yeah, or Gene Kelly in in Singing in the Rain.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I want him.
I love that film so much.
Yeah. I love the fact that I forget the name of the actress, but you'll know it, I'm sure. Playing Loretta, the main actress who's in the silent movie with Gene Kelly.
Oh, it's not Debbie Reynolds, is it?
No, not Debbie Reynolds. The one who plays against her.
I've forgotten.
I'm going to look it up, and then I'll cut out me looking it up. I won't. I'll keep it in.
Our friend Google.
Singing in the Rain, no apostrophe, 1952. Gene Hagen, Lena Lamont is the name. So Gene Hagen dubs, is the, has that brilliant scene where Debbie Reynolds is dubbing her because Lena Lamont has this atrocious voice, and it's like, I want him, and she's, I want you, and she does this beautiful voice. But Debbie Reynolds couldn't get it right. And so the voice you hear is Lena Lamont dubbing herself on the film. And there's just so many moments in Singing in the Rain. It is a postmodern masterpiece.
That's fantastic.
When Debbie Reynolds is singing behind the curtain and Lena Lamont can't sing, and she's singing, and they reveal, it's Debbie Reynolds, really. Actually, it's not. It's another singer singing in the rain. So it's just layers. Like and that curtain doesn't go up, so you never see that woman who I think sung one of the Disney films as well, but did very little else, or maybe did loads of stuff and just was never credited. That's
also very, very possible, unfortunately, with the history of Hollywood. Yeah, I've got a fantastic series of books that, there's two of them. The Great Movie Makers of Hollywood's Golden Age. I don't know if you know that one at all. It's from the American Film Institute. There's two of them. So this is the Golden Age, and then the other one is the Next Generation,
Mm.
and it's got stories from how the craft was developed, how cinema was made. So you've got Billy Wilder, John Huston, there, Elia Kazan, lots of men, unfortunately, with the nature of how things were at that time. But there's so many interesting people talking about how they developed their craft, and I love that kind of the hidden stories of things. It ends with Satyajit Ray as well, which is a beautiful choice. But that takes us very much into the world of sound of the film, and I think for me that's one of the things I love about this film is the intimacy of how close they are to the microphone.
Yes.
And there's a modern filmmaker from Cornwall, Mark Jenkin, whose work I admire so much. I really think he's quite exceptional, and he films on Super 8 and then post sync sound with it, and everything's too close done, and it's just, I love it. And it's because it's not reality. So when we're watching this film, the sound isn't real. We really feel it's in a different register. It puts us into a different register of viewing, and it's this sort of it's a register of Western. It's a register of, it's not just film, it's a specific type of Western that we know we are in when everything is too close. Like there's just that, someone may be really far away from the camera, but still we hear them up here. And I love that so much. It's Brechtian. It's that alienation effect. The Filmskund effect that kind of shatters the reality and makes you go, what? But the problem is, again, the same as Brecht. It's too successful. You're drawn into it, and you stop questioning it after a while, and you're like, oh, it's just great. I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah. when does a sort of like an alienation effect which draws you in cease to be an alienation effect, I guess. And this was also a tradition in Italian cinema at the time, in partly for budgetary reasons, but I mean, also Fellini would give people just numbers and ask them to count up to that number, actors, I mean, and he would say, right, okay, Marcello, you count to 7. Claudia, you count to 6, then back to 6, and then you're on 5, and they'd be like, but can't you just give us a script and we'll do the lines? It was like, no, I haven't written the script yet. I just need shots of you doing this. And he would build a scene like that and then have them dub in the dialogue afterwards. And it's crazy. And that would also allow him to talk during takes and to give people direct, which is, by the way, there are modern directors who do that to this day that you might not know about. There's one I'm writing a book about, which is coming out in December. Yeah, would you believe? But yes,
bookshops.
We're available from all good bookshops and Amazon, obviously. Here you've got the sound. I think Leone is one of those directors who is so aware of sound and how he can control sound, and also aware of it, and has in Ennio Morricone a composer who isn't working against the sound, but is working alongside it. I mean, even just the sound of the pistol shots and the rifle shots are constantly. Exactly.
Musical.
They're super real. They're hyper real.
I love them. And Cole, my son, hadn't quite spotted that the Colonel had the same watch as Indio. Although we had talked about it when it was on, because you've got the fantastic moment of whenever you see Indio with a watch, you ding dang ding dang. But when the Colonel opens his watch, you hear a nylon strung guitar ding dang ding dang, and that was. It's such a beautiful hint as what's going on here through the music.
They're both listening to the same tune, but they're not listening to the same tune on the same instruments.
Exactly that. Yeah, it's their leitmotif. Their kind of what's there, and the music is so well done all the way through it. It's not just music, it's sound effects, as you say, exactly that. Apparently Leone asked Morricone to write some of the music beforehand so they could shoot to it, which I think, imagine being there on set and they're playing that, Oh, it's like what I love when you're working in theatre, especially in film as well, because it's the day you get the music and you've been working with a temp track or you've been working with something roughly, to account or whatever, and then suddenly the music arrives and you're like, oh, there we go.
Yeah,
It's so special.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that, for instance, the music has a humor to it, which is something that Morricone is, you listen to all his scores and there's a lot of jokes, musical
Zoom, zoom,
jokes.
zoom. You're like,
Yeah,
sharp.
exactly. Sean.
Yeah.
Um, he does, like, for instance, in this one, which it blows my head off every time I hear the soundtrack and every time I see the scene. The first Indio fight, which happens in a ruined church, you suddenly have a church organ sound. And from anybody else, this would be histrionic to the point of laughable. But with Morricone and with Leone and how he's shooting it, you're suddenly, and with the
Yeah.
reality, he
Shot his
does
family.
this
Yeah.
5 seconds after he kills the guy's kids,
Yeah.
and so it's just got this is freaking dramatic. So if you're not willing to go with us on this high drama, you might
Yeah.
as well leave the cinema now, because this is, the other thing I was wondering about, and I wanted to ask you this, Alistair,
Mhm.
is the actual, I get the feeling that the sort of superpower of Indio is he knows when the chimes end and
Yes.
nobody else does, and that's
Exactly.
why Colonel Mortimer can kill him, because
Yeah.
he's met the other person who knows when the chimes end, and that's kind of why he knows
Yep.
as soon as he hasn't got the locket, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm screwed. I
It's
can't.
a zero sum game. It's
Yeah,
the game is fixed. Actually, it's you're going to play my game, but we both have a chance, but it's only me that can win.
yeah.
Um,
I've got the button underneath the table, like a James Bond villain.
exactly that. Yeah, it's Spy Who Loved Me. It's exactly that. Yeah, it's to tie back into what you're saying about the music and the grandiosity of the music. It struck me some time ago. Most of the films we see in life tend not to be, unlike yourself, you've got the luxury of seeing things in cinema so often with your work,
Mm,
but most people see films on TVs, and TVs, since I've had a TV, I've got massively massively much bigger, but what cinema does, I think, is it adds a gravity to things. And I remember I was working in Malta one time, and I went to see The Kid by Charlie Chaplin,
mm,
a film I knew quite well, and I'd seen it a number of times on my on my small TV in my student bedroom, and then there I was a couple of years later seeing it on the big screen outdoors, live accompaniment in Malta, and the same gags were amplified massively because of the scale of it.
mm.
And cinema seems to add a gravity to something. Things have more weight. Movement has more weight. There's more tension. There's more at stake. And you've also got the David Lynch's thing of, if you're watching a film on your phone is not watching a film. But for certain younger people in our generation, that's how they're engaging with it, and we have to hope that their imaginative register is engaged by that. But there's something so compelling about the power of the large screen experience that organ there is totally and utterly justified.
Yeah. Yeah. And the guy who's just lost his family is
Oh,
sweating and he's crying and he's at the end of his, and doesn't really care if he lives or dies at this
aye.
point, but just is full of hate. And it just, those emotions are, yeah. And they play against the sort of coolness of the film. And that coolness is typified perfectly by what we started talking about, the whistling that is,
Mm,
is Clint Eastwood's character is the
yeah.
sort of he's got a job to do and it's da 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 da.
Mhm.
He's just whistling away as he rides into the next town to kill the next
Yeah.
villain, and he's not arresting anybody. He's not bringing two horses. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
as if he brought two horses, it would be one too many in in Charles Bronson's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly that. I have a question for you though.
Mhm.
What do you think he does with the $1 million that's in the saddlebags?
Ah, yeah, yeah. Do you think he takes it to the orphanage, or do you think he?
I think he gives it back. I think
Yeah.
he's a kind of I think he's function. I know that's quite a dull answer, but I think he's quite a functional guy. He's got a job to do. That's part of
Hmm.
the job. So well, I need to get that back there as part of that. So I think that's what it is. But there is a chance that you just go, I'll take the bounty on them, and I'll take the rest for myself.
Yeah. I mean, he does in for a few dollars more. Sorry, for a fistful of dollars, he gives the money back to the government.
Mhm. So it's likely that then.
Yeah, yeah. It's stated, and he sort of makes a point. Oh, what, the Mexicans over here, the Americans over there? No, that's too dangerous. So he just doesn't want to get involved. I mean, I want to get. We have the bank heist. I want to get to the final scene. So you have the shootout. You have the what the compulsory sort of Clint Eastwood getting beaten up scene. This time with Lee Van Cleef. And if you see I mean, the versions that we saw on TV were always cut at this point, whereas any of the beating scenes now out on Blu-rays are a good 10, 15, 20 seconds longer and involve more sadism.
Yeah, totally. Oh, the laughing. Indio's laughing is just like, oh, wow.
Well, it's sort of orgiastic, isn't it? They're all getting off on it, and you can't. At some point, you're going, "Is this even laughing? Is this? Does this?"
It's sadism, pure and simple. Yeah.
And then you get this final. Then I think the end of Fistful of for a few dollars more. So, is the moment where you really say, this is a Leone Western. This is this is totally the end of a Leone Western. And from this point on, he can only get bigger. He's not going to change what he does. Once Upon a Time in America is a totally different film. Once Upon a Time, Fistful of Dynamite is a different film.
Yeah, peculiar thing. Yeah,
it's an odd film. I don't think it really fits. I mean, Leone didn't want to direct it; he wanted to produce it. So I don't think he'd done. Yeah, Rod Steiger was instrumental because basically Steiger turned up on the first day of set and there was another director, and he said, "I'm not happy. I came over to do a Leone film," and Leone said, "Oh no, he's great. He's just like me." And Steiger said, "Well, I'll send you someone tomorrow who's just like me," and walked off the set. And at that point, Leone had to sort of like, okay, and I'll take that over. So I don't see that film as a,
part of the trilogy.
Yeah, not really. And I honestly, I think this is. I love Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I would probably say it is my favorite. I just like spending more time with them. I love Angel Eyes as a character, especially after you've had Colonel Mortimer. So you've had the rewriting of him as a good and then back to the bad, and it's kind of whiplash.
I need to see it again. Now that my son's watched one, I think we will sit and watch more because they are so compelling.
It's got real pathos to it as well. I think when he gives the dying young soldier, a last drag of his cigar and picks up the poncho. And the idea of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is when he finishes and he rides off in his poncho with the money, with his share of the money, he's supposed to be riding into the first film. So The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is supposed to be the prequel of Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More. So it's I mean, I don't know, but what I wanted to ask you is that gunfight where you've really got a sense of a duel. You've got that circular sort of almost like bull ring sort of structure that they're using. What's it called? A corrada, the sort of corral.
Corral. Yeah, I think that's
and you've got it's also a ritual that's you've seen already, so it's set up for you, and you're just waiting, and then it's interrupted, and
perfect.
That when that hand comes in.
It's just I think it's so clean. I think that's what appeals to me, is that it's just such clarity. Two figures in a landscape, and again the question of distance, and and then that distance, that line suddenly becomes a triangle, and it's just like, wow. It's actually not even a triangle because there's no, Clint Eastwood's not going to shoot the colonel, so it's a V shape. Yeah, it's basically a V shape. There's no way out.
Yeah, and he's sort of. It's really interesting because I can't think of another film where the protagonist shifts so much. You're expecting it to be Clint Eastwood, but actually it's Colonel Mortimer.
Yeah,
and he becomes the audience. He's just going to sit and watch this one,
and smiles. Essentially, smiles and just
enjoys it. Here you go, old man.
Sure. Oh, and that's for me. That's one of the kind of significant things in westerns is, and I'd like to see it in other forms of film as well. Is the suiting up. Very often in a western, you'll have a moment when a character suits up, and that is, the putting on the pistol like that. Now we begin. It's just like, oh yes, I'm not a sports fan, but this is what I think people get from sports is that tension of
Here we go. Yeah, finally we're there. We're at the point. And the other thing with this, which I noticed on the rewatch, is how the colors change because we're in the evening and we suddenly get this beautiful peach magenta sky and the shadows and the whole thing is infused with a twilight of the gods, if we're going to go with leitmotifs and Wagner.
Totally.
And big screen faces. And
it is a total theatre work, actually. To be in the it's exactly what it is. It's a complete work of operatic glory. It's definitely Wagnerian. There's no two ways about it. But when it's at its most Wagnerian, it's actually its most simplistic. It's the three of them there, and the music is and I think this is the thing. So when I did my dissertation as a student, I read a book about mime, which had quotes from various different famous mimes in it about the nature of how the actual form works. And one thing that I think it was Etienne de Creux, who was the father of modern mime in many ways, said is that everything has to be in balance. And if one thing outbalances another, it doesn't work. So if you've got too much if you've got loads and loads of speaking in a show and then you've got a bit of mime, it doesn't work. Whereas it's got to find this sort of organic balance, and this is the key word for me in all these things, is organic. And I think that's what this does. This sequence finds a balance, most importantly, between what's going on screen and the distance between us and what we're watching. So it allows that distance between us watching it and what we're seeing is the kind of creative, interpretive distance of it. And that's what comes into play. That crackles our viewing distance crackles, and it's drawn inside of ourselves. And we start to lose the sense of the subjective self of going, oh yes, it's very well shot, by just going, it goes back to the pre-rational self of, oh, and you can see it. And it's done really well in Lee Van Cleef's performance. There's just a tiny, tiny moment where you see him going, right, there's no way out. Okay, this is how it goes. And he's not sad about it. It's like, this is it. This is how I do it.
This is my chance. This is what I wanted. I'm
exactly
I'm not going to be. There's no self-pity. There's none whatsoever.
Yeah. It's like, it's justice. He's got his and then that, got that wide shot, the two of them at different angles from each other, and then suddenly you've this hand that comes up in between them with the other watch, and the Doppler effect of the ding, the wing, the tang. It's just absolutely magical.
I mean, he always does this thing, which is Leone, which is sort of like a non-classical sort of cinematography, where he doesn't care about point of view necessarily, and he'll film three figures from 5 different angles just because he wants you to know these guys what relationship they are to the geography and to everything, and there's nobody necessarily. I mean, the best example of that is for Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where they're in a graveyard. So who's watching who? They're watching each other, of course. So they're watching each other's hands and the things. But then you have these far away long shots, and what are the dead watching them? It's a wonderful. His compositions are amazing. His framing is amazing, and I think you see. I can see where you can look at Good, Bad, and Ugly and say, oh, he's doing the same thing, but he knows he's doing it now and he's indulging it a little bit too much. I don't necessarily disagree, but just enjoy that indulgence to such an extent. And likewise, I mean, I see a lot of like Volante's energy goes into Eli Wallach's performance. So that's why I don't really believe this idea that Volante was too theatrical or over the top, because that's Leone. That's a Leone trope.
That's what he's after. Yeah,
exactly. Why do you like Eli Wallach if you don't like Jean-Marie Vondé? I think it's much more.
And
likely.
Also the grotesques are all kind of
exactly. You start the film with a landscape being blocked off by a Canadian actor's big ugly mug. I forget his name now. I think it's much more likely, thinking about it behind the scenes, that Volante was a very left wing,
Yes, he
sort
wanted
of
to do political cinema, and
exactly activist and everything else. And I just think that Leone and him maybe had a couple too many arguments along the way. I mean, Leone was nominally left wing, was of the left, I would say, but not necessarily. He was much more into his cinema and wasn't particularly, you know, that was just where he came from in Rome, you know. The same school as Ennio Morricone. They went to the same junior school together. Without knowing about it for years. It was years later when Morricone got an interview with Leone went over for dinner to talk about doing the music for Fistful of Dollars. He went to the bathroom at one point and saw a photograph on the wall of the school and went, "Oh, that's me sat in the second row, and that's you in the first row."
No way.
And they'd sort of like, "Oh, wow, we must have been friends then." And it was
Oh my goodness.
there you go. You sort of pre-modern thought,
Yeah.
and people who grow up together in that sort of environment, of course, they have the same ideas and the same feelings and the same,
Yeah, totally, and react against the same things. Yeah, that's one of the things you said earlier on, I think is really interesting. It's this is almost a fairy tale, this film, and one of the things that's always worth asking yourself with a film is, who is the camera? And in this film, I think the camera is the storyteller, in the kind of Jim Henson sense of storyteller of "come with me and I'll cast you a spell."
Yeah.
I think that's who the camera is in this case, and it's which is that Leone is the camera, and it's just it does cast a spell, and that end is such, it's not three witches over hubble hubble boil and trouble, but there's something magical and dark magic about it that is like that as well. And
well, you were saying as well earlier about you use this final scene for teaching. I want to hear your sort of take on this final, how you communicate it to students.
What I do with it is we watch the scene and then we take it apart shot by shot, very simply. And I'm teaching a group in Campbellton at the moment. They're all in person in Campbellton, which is about 200 miles down. I live in the Isle of Mull, so it's a ferry journey, and then quite a few miles down the road. They're all together in person, and I'm here on Zoom teaching a room full of the young people. So I've got to find ways to get things across really clearly, really quickly and simply. And the end of For a Few Dollars More is so perfect for that, because it's so clearly communicated. The language of shot types, which we'll have looked at in the lesson beforehand, is clearly applied into this. And you can look at, there's setup number 1, setup number 2, setup number 3. Look how many times he returns to setup number 1, setup number 2, goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What I'd say to them is, we take it apart using which is this app that is an in-camera app for video teaching, like on Zoom or whatever, and it's basically an interactive version of PowerPoint. Although
it's called it's like MHMM.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
okay.
MMHMM. PowerPoint now does similar things, but is a slightly easier thing to work with. And we just go look at the shots and how they work, and it's so simple and clearly communicated. Isn't it like eyeline? Like there, he's got to, where's his gun? It's down there. So the idea is that, right, go and make me a shot. Go and make me a sequence of 7 shots or so that tells me a story where someone has something else someone else wants. No words. Go. And if you've seen this, you understand how it works. The work that the young people can come up with immediately on the background, or the older people can come up with immediately, is so fundamentally cinematic. It's great. And that's the danger when teaching cinema, is that people understand cinema. Cinema is a language. It's like language acquisition. First stage acquisition, you're learning all the terms. Second stage acquisition, you understand all the things, but you're not able to put it forth and out. And third stage acquisition is active language usage. Very often when we teach cinema, the young people our participants are trapped in the second stage for quite a long time, as they see and understand things, but they're not able to articulate it in their own filmmaking craft. And so to use examples, I call it the watching making approach, is you use examples to watch something and then you make inspired by that. And that's why I think that this one particularly gives such strong results straight away, because it's very simple parameters.
I think it's almost like he's got to the end of the film and he's like, I want this to be really clear. Like that's my 100% sort of top thing. The drama will do everything for itself. I don't need to dramatize it. It's already there. And I wonder, I'd love to hear how he made this. You know, how was this scene shot in an afternoon? Was it shot in a hall? Did he have to come back to it and shoot it? Because just the continuity of the light is
amazing.
And I just don't think you get that continuity. I think you'd have to shoot this with with literally 2 or 3 setups in order to just capture
I think that's it. He pushes in, particularly on Lee Van Cleef and on Volante's faces. There's, it's distance closer. I think he could have done a lot of it very, very quickly. Yeah, there's that. The unity of light is amazing. And then at the end, when the colonel's going off, he's literally going off into the sunset, quite literally.
Almost sort of vanishing in just the most beautiful colours.
Oh.
And I also wanted, the final thing to point out is how, one thing on rewatching this, I was really struck by how the wagon full of bodies, how horrific that is as a sort of joke, as a gag, and kind of
they're not going to last.
No, they're going to be smelling already before he gets round the corner, and he's trotting along in this thing, and I was just thinking from an acting point of view, you've got John Maria Volante, Italy's most celebrated theatre actor, being thrown on top of, a big pile of other actors.
Yeah.
And they're having to, what are they doing? They're holding on to stuff because they all look really precarious. Someone's going to fall off.
I think there's literally their feet are pointed up so he can rest his bollocks on them so he doesn't fall off at one point. It's really, it's kind of hilarious. It's, and that there's also that magic moment when we have Indio's last moment where he does come back for one more and then just it's just,
that's genius. And it's like it's like Muhammad Ali watching in the Rumble from the Jungle, watching his adversary, I forget his name now, Joe
Frazier,
fall, and he sort of has his second punch cocked and he doesn't let it off because it would spoil the moment, spoil the
beauty.
Yeah, exactly. And it's similar here that, of course, this guy's still alive, finish it, 2 in the chest, 1 in the head, as they say and he doesn't. It's just like, no, let's see what he's got. Let's see. And that's a grace that the Colonel has had from the very beginning because he allows his other opponent shoot as many times as you like while I put together my gun because, you deserve a sporting chance almost.
And it's also the tension thing as well, isn't it? There he is rigid and then suddenly back up. And then suddenly back down again. So it's that push-pull thing is in operation there straight away as well.
And of course, you've got the final layer of politics with Clint Eastwood. Just basically, people are, dollars. They're dollars. They're for a few dollars more. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. Having some trouble with my adding.
As someone with dyscalculia, I find that very funny, yes.
Oh, it's hilarious. I mean, it's really hilarious. And it's sort of, and that's what people are to him. They're just sums of money, That's what these people are anyway. Yeah. The little boy at the hotel is a quarter, 50 cents for every piece of information. And
that's it. I think watched a trailer for another Leone movie with Lee Van Cleef in it. I can't remember what it was after I watched For a Few Dollars More last night, and there's a moment where Lee Van Cleef comes into the town on his horse, and there's a young guy who says, where can I saddle up? And he says, there's a stable up there, and he says, right, I'll give you this dollar if you. And it's that the currency is more than just a functional thing. Currency is status. There's just so much at play within it. The symbolic language of the film is just...
Well, the religion goes all the way through this. It's so, it's unbelievable how much Leone packs into a film, which is not necessarily about religion at all, but he manages to put churches in there and, holy families and ceremonies and everything, rituals. And I wonder if this is a little bit Italy, post-war Italy, growing up in post-war Italy and thinking the mighty dollar, the fistful of dollars is what everybody wants because the lira, a fistful of liras isn't going to get you much at the supermarket.
I have a friend, Juliana, who lives in Tobermory, the kind of principal town on the Isle of Mull, who is from near Naples originally, and she remembers growing up at the end of the war and the American soldiers staggering around drunk below the winds. But she could also remember kind of the fascists as well. But she remembers the drunkenness of the American soldiers, I guess, in sort of post-victory period. And really, yeah, Italy is not a country I've ever managed to get to yet. I'm obviously fascinated by so much of the politics of the country. And so many interesting things. Like Berlusconi is such a divisive character and so, what a real rotter. and Dario Fo for me as a theatre maker is one of my principal kind of heroes. And Lecoq, who his school I studied at, he trained at the Piccolo Teatro as well, and or taught there as well with when Dario Fo was there. And so and when we were at, there's a thing we did, it's this part of the second year of the training, where you take a film and you make a stage version of it with just your bodies, and it lasts about 7 minutes. Everyone else was choosing to do Blade Runner or Alien and all these wonderful things. It was great. We got, and unfortunately I dislocated my knee, so I was in plaster, and we did Rome Open City as our film.
Wow.
And it was, unfortunately, it was principally based around one actress who wanted to be Giulietta, the main actor in that.
Anna Magnani.
Anna Magnani, that's it. She wanted to be her, and so it was lots of her just going in the front of the stage.
That's the most famous moment of that film, is the final shot.
So it was I would love to have seen other things as well than from that period of cinema. So I need to delve more into Italian cinema. No two ways about it. But
there's a podcast that you might be interested in.
Yes.
Well, listen, thank you so much, Alasdair, for the conversation, for being with me. It's been a joy to rewatch for a few dollars more and get your thoughts on it, and kind of want to watch it again now.
Likewise, I could with a great deal of ease watch any of them again. They're just magic. Thank you so much.
Arrivederci ragazzi, ci vediamo in un prossimo film.
Lo speriamo.